So after, I feel like every video starts with so. After Santorini, we took the ferry. So that was your first time taking a ferry ride. That's one of the big things with Europe, right? They have different transportation options than in the U.S., which sounds weird to say. And obviously the U.S. has ferries, and obviously the U.S. has trains. But the U.S. is very centered on driving and flying, and Europe is very centered on trains and ferries, with a bit of flying and then some driving. And so while they all have the same things, there is a huge difference in that Europe has these big train and ferry mechanisms to move you almost anywhere, and like the ferry that we took from Fira to Iraklio is a type of ferry that I don't even know where to find in the United States. It's so rare. It's a giant ferry. It was about almost 4 hours. They have restaurants and bars and outdoor seating and indoor seating, and it's multi-tiered. And the bigger one that goes to Athens even has overnight sleepers, so it's like a cruise ship.
Right.
So that alone was a new experience.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It reminded me just of like a cruise, like the one that we were on, even though it wasn't, like it's still like that's the vibe I got from it. Mm-hmm. It was very different.
Yeah, I like doing ferries. I like the change of pace. And you will get to do trains later when we leave Italy. When we head to Switzerland, you'll be experiencing trains, which you've ridden the train in New York, but it's a little bit different in Europe, partially just because it's so common and a normal part of transportation and not like a special. Like it's special as a tourist, but in New York, it's almost like special that you're riding a train. So we got to Crete. We got to Heraklion. So what do you think of Crete compared to the other locations of Greece that you've been to?
This is like a spot that if I were to live in Greece, I would want to live here. Because I don't like crowds. I don't like a lot of people. So I'm not like a city person in those places. Just had too many people. Crammed, I feel like, in like such a smaller space, even though it's not that small, but Crete just feels so much bigger, and like there's people that like you don't feel like everyone's on top of each other all the time. Everyone's going to the same places, trying to do the same things. So I like Crete the most. It's pretty too. It's got pretty beaches also, like, so yeah, it has a lot of like the same.
And you've seen all three big cities, Iraklio, Rethymno, which we stopped in to do lunch, so you got to see the beach there, well, the waterfront, not really the beach, and a little bit of the city itself, which is where I used to live. I used to live in a village outside Rethymno just 3 years ago, and now we're in the Hanya region, and those three cities represent the majority of the population of the island, and are by far the only three cities, like big, that we would, as an outsider, you'd really consider a city. There are other things that kind of qualify as cities here, but they're tiny in comparison. But all those have, downtowns and public transportation infrastructures, and tourists go there, and hotels and that kind of stuff.
But even then, like, it was nothing, like the cities here are nothing like they were in Santorini or Athens.
Right, and those are much smaller towns. They're just packed with people.
Right.
Here, like Hanya today, we were able to move around pretty easily. There's lots of space on the streets. And yeah.
You could do your own thing.
Yep. And we drove across the island. So you've got to see more than half of the east-west of Crete, and you've seen it from the North Shore to the South Shore. Mm-hmm. So you've gotten to see the mountains, you've gotten to see the beaches, you've gotten to see the cities, you've gotten to see little tiny villages like this. So we've driven through a bunch of small villages, so you can kind of see how they tend to be laid out.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, sure. I don't know where the cat went.